Hi everyone, welcome to Feelings Forward. In today's episode, we're going to talk to the incredible Yasmin Kidwai. She is a politician, a filmmaker, a mother, and a designer. She truly wears many hats, and in today's episode, we're going to dive into all of them. The conversation will be around the highs and lows of parenting, the pressures of public life, and how she has navigated through all of it. Her concept of mental health, her relationship with therapy, and what healing truly means to her. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Let's get into it. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy. The first question, when actually I was thinking about this podcast with you, the first question that came into my mind was that there are so many roles that you play: filmmaker, designer, politician, a mother. So, how do you manage all of that, or does that take a toll on your mental health?
Honestly, how do I put it? You don't always choose the roles that you're playing. Though, I mean, having said that, choose how you play the role. Let me put it like that. I'm a mother, and I chose to be a mother. It was a very conscious decision that that I want to be a mother. And then I very early on, thankfully, decided what kind of parent or mother I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up for my children. And I was always working and as a filmmaker, and it was a very hectic life. Being a documentary filmmaker, being an independent documentary filmmaker, it's a hectic space to be in. But I was always sure that I would continue working because I loved my work, and B, once I had children, I was very aware that I need to financially support them also. But I was also very clear that I want to be a mother who is there for her children. I didn't want my children to be either brought up by nannies or maids, or to be, there was a term which was used, I think, in the early 2000s, lock and key children. That, the parents are at work and the children come back. And I was very sure that I don't want my children to be. So to show up as a mother was a very conscious choice.
Right.
And, once, and it's something I'm very aware of, that once I made a decision that I want to be this, then a lot of conflict and stress about the situation. When it's bringing up children is stressful, there is no other way about it. There is no sugarcoating it.
Right.
But there are stresses which come. My child falls ill, it's all your responsibility, or school stress or anything, and then the children's stress become yours, and that is what you sign up for as a parent. But since I was very sure that I want to be there and I want to be around, so I knew I would be working less, I would be making those choices. And there's a very I don't know, very very overused word and very popular word called balance. And that took me a lot of time, to many years, to understand and learn that there is no daily balance. There are seasons and there are times and when one takes over another. But it's when my children are very very young, and when that time the child physically frankly needs you, so they were priority. The 2 years back, I did a very how should I put? A very hectic journey across India when I did the Bharat Jodo Yatra. And the children were in their teenage years at that point of time, and I was very worried that how am I going to do this, because I had to physically out of Delhi. And so the way I did it, was to sit, this was the first time they were going to be alone and I was going to leave them and go. And the way I did it is like, I sat them down. I kind of thought they have to be part of this journey, and I said, this is a huge opportunity and I want to do this, and you will be alone. But how I will manage is like, I will come back every 5th day for a day. So I'll do, but I said, but by and large, you will be alone for this much time. But so we managed that the thing. So I think it's about taking the decisions about how you want to do. Having, when you take the decision yourself, I feel then you have control. Then it doesn't feel like someone else is deciding for you and things are out of your control. when you
Absolutely.
feel that you have no choice. So that's when I think you kind of feel out of control, you feel very stressed out.
Right.
And in fact, I must say that this a friend of mine very early on, my first for my firstborn was just very very young, and I'd got a very big offer from a television channel, which would have kind of it was something I always wanted to do. And that offer came, and I was like, oh my god, look at the timing of this offer. Now I have baby, how will I do it? The job is in Bombay. I've moved to Delhi, and so there was, and I remember this friend of mine told me, then why don't you decide? And I was like, what's there for me to decide? I was very agitated and all, but it was good to talk to somebody who said, so you decide. And what do you want to do? And that thing has stayed with me for since then, that I kind of feel that one should take the decide, one should make the choice. Then you feel that you have the power.
For sure. I think choices and conscious choices.
Yeah, conscious choices
Constantly can give you the sense of power, control, and then that helps us manage the frustration and disappointment that comes with it. Like you said, balance is not an everyday thing. So let's say on days that it's not there, how do you cope? How do you manage with how do you manage bad days?
So okay, again here now, this is frankly, this has come after years of learning. I didn't start out like that, but I now find that putting routines and discipline for me, that kind of again gives me control. When my days are not, every day is different. So it's not like I have a set day, because like you said, I'm doing different things. So I don't have a set pattern to a day. And while that's very exciting, it's also very it's very unsettling also, because one way of looking at it in a very glamorous way, it's so exciting, I don't know what I'm going to be doing today or what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, and my work is like that. But it also is that it's so unsettling because you don't know. So how do I set my routines and discipline? And that can also become an excuse for not doing anything for yourself. For like, if you want to start, for example, an exercise routine, and you're like, oh, I can't because now I can't do it. So I have kind of put these disciplines and routines for myself, which I try to follow very regularly. So I do things like, I try to meditate, not very successfully, but I just do it. And I've started doing breathing exercises. So now, okay, if my normal breathing thing is like 15 minutes, so I'm like, it's okay, today I can do 5 minutes. And then exercise, I try to put in some kind of exercise into my day. And that also again is, I'm stopped being very rigid that it has to be like this, that if I don't exercise today, then okay, everything is just gone. Okay, like in 7 days, will I get, let's say, 4 days? So I don't beat myself up that much about it, but routines really help. Setting routines helps me.
Yeah, from your answers, I feel like a sense of control and structure is something that you value.
Yes, I do actually. Yeah, that's something I've learned to create for myself, and honestly, it does give me. It ultimately leads to a sense of peace, because which is what I think all of us want to feel centered and not out of control.
Correct. So if I can summarize it, it's like, okay, even if the day is different things on different days, but there's some sort of there are some regular activities that you do in the day, like working out or meditation.
But there could be also days when I don't get to do anything. Of this.
Okay.
But
and that's fine.
Yeah, it's fine, because like I said, that I know there cannot be a daily balance. There might there is, you once you start, this balance word is kind of used and overused, and then you start striving for that daily balance, and that might not happen, and that cannot actually happen, especially if you have children, or you're juggling multiple things, or that everybody, even if you don't have children, you have everybody is wearing multiple hats. There is family obligation, there is work, there is health. So every day cannot be a balanced day. But it's like when you're setting these disciplines, at least you know that I have to do something. But there could be an entire week which would go by when I've not been able to do anything. But then I know that these 3-4 things are important and I have to get back to it. So, so now I've started this thing that, okay, if there's no exercise, can I at least do 5 Surya Namaskars?
Okay.
So that just 5, I'll just do 5 Surya Namaskars, and it's I'm not striving for what do you say, a six-pack abs or this thing, but I do want to stay healthy.
Right.
And that also is because I kind of feel if I want to do stuff, then I need to feel healthy enough to do it.
Sure. Health is wealth.
Yeah.
For sure. Right. So when you're talking about your children also and being away for work and then having that conversation with them when you were leaving for Bharat Jodo, is emotional literacy something that you kind of try to model for them, or you discuss with them on a regular basis? Is it a part of your parenting, or how does it?
Yeah, I'm now, parenting is a very touchy topic, and I feel that everybody, I'm sure, tries to be the best parent that they can be for their children. In my case, I'm quite friendly with my children. I've tried to keep the conversations and the door to having conversations open always. So yes, how we feel, and I mean, me and the boys. I have 2 boys, so how we, how they feel or I feel, we try to keep it. I try to keep it open, and I think because I have set that example, we are kind of in an okay space. But that again is something you need to keep. I think the best thing, you as a parent, I feel that you can't tell a child to do this while showing up in some other way.
Right.
So whatever you do, so it can't be that I am screaming and shouting at home and I'm telling them it's not nice to shout. It doesn't work like that. If I can't tell them that you must eat healthy if I'm not going to be eating healthy. Also, so I think by I'm very conscious of that the only way I can show, I mean, I can show them is by being that being that person.
So modeling that behavior.
Yeah,
so
so like, have conversations. Don't judge. And I'm constantly learning. My children are also constantly like, I mean, to a couple of days back, I had a conversation with my younger one, and I was telling him a story of something which had happened, and he said, "You are talking. That's not very nice. What you're saying." And I was like, "I'm not." And he's like, "Because you spoke about a person who was not there." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I was like, "I'm so sorry." Like, and I realized that I was actually almost gossiping. And he was like, you shouldn't do that. And I was like, "Yeah, I shouldn't do that. And thank you for pointing that out." Yeah.
I think parents being okay with being corrected in some way, or learning from their children as well. Children learning from parents, and parents learning from children. I think it's a two-way.
It is. It really is. I kind of feel who else will teach you how to be a parent?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm as old a mother as the boys are.
Yeah.
So who else will teach you how to be a parent? And also every child is different. So that's what I'm saying. There can't be any comparison or guide to parenting. You just have to kind of figure and feel your way through.
Yeah, because like you said, you have 2 boys, and with bringing up boys, the concept of strength and vulnerability kind of gets mixed up. So maybe modeling, like you said, that keeping the door open, sharing experiences, feelings, maybe communicating, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, that it's okay to share feelings.
Yeah.
And you're still strong.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. With boys especially, I feel like, like you're saying that, there is so much information or this thing is coming to them from how boys should be and stuff like that. So you can't erode on that,
Hmm.
because they are seeing other people and they're seeing other boys. But how I have tried to is I've also kept a very open house.
Hmm.
So I've always said it's completely okay for your friends across genders to come home
Hmm.
and be at home and spend time here and
Hmm.
have this. I mean, it's as much my house as it's your
Right.
house. So
Hmm.
I again think openness over there.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you learn every
You
day.
learn every day. Lovely.
Yeah.
With these cultural events that you're doing, what's the story there? How did you get to that?
How did I get to doing? So I'm a documentary filmmaker, and that's been my first love and my profession. And but somewhere about I think 5 6 years back, I kind of felt that, see, as a filmmaker, you're telling stories.
Hmm.
So the cultural events are just I feel another canvas for me
Hmm.
to communicate
Hmm.
and to kind of reach out culturally, which is what I was doing with films.
Right.
And I think I got lucky that one of the first cultural events that I thought of
Hmm.
um, uh, was for a small place called Orcha in Madhya Pradesh, and I was actually asked to make films,
Hmm.
commercial films for the state of Madhya Pradesh to kind of promote tourism.
Hmm.
And while I was researching and working on that, I felt very strongly that a film will not do justice.
Hmm.
And so I had to be in this place, but I had to actually go and tell them that you're hiring me to do films, but films will not do justice. We
Hmm.
have to get people to feel this. Now, how do
Hmm.
you feel this? But we felt that that people have to be a part of the experience, and how does one create an experience?
Hmm.
And so the first major cultural festival I did was in Madhya Pradesh, and that was
Hmm.
to create this experience.
Experience.
And then I kind of felt that these all immersive experiences give me a larger canvas and
Hmm.
more, I mean, better way to communicate and tell the story. And so we've been doing that. Now in Delhi, we have the Sufi Heritage Festival, which is something we've just set up.
Hmm.
And so right now I'm completely involved with that.
Lovely, lovely. Like with storytelling, also, when you hear people's stories and when you were making films as well and different documentaries, any story that stayed with you on emotional healing, on mental health specifically?
A film which I used to work a lot. I used to make lot of documentary films for HelpAge India. You've
Okay.
heard of the
Yes. Yes.
organization, and so we were dealing with a lot of stories with the elderly.
Mm.
And I remember that I'd done this film many years back. It was for HelpAge India,
Mm.
and we were following a group of elderly people who were and it was very interesting time in India, because you see we blame you blame the younger generation that you've left your elderly. So I
Mm.
was trying to understand how does this work. So I
Mm.
looked across. So we were looking in this film across different categories of people. So there
Mm.
was, I remember, a lady from GK
Mm.
in Delhi
Mm.
who had the most massive house,
Mm.
but she had no children. Or I
Mhm.
think, I don't remember, children or one child. So at that time, there was this whole time in the 2000s when
Mm.
a lot of people had gone abroad.
Okay.
And these were parents who had encouraged the children to move abroad. But
Mm-hmm.
then that, because of longevity
Mm.
increasing, the parents were alone over here.
Mm.
And this concept of these fancy old age homes
Mm.
was coming up.
Mm.
But it was very painful to deal. So I remember this whole scene. I once we shot a scene with this lady
Mm.
who was wrapping up a house
Mm.
and going shifting into an old age. So
Mm.
and she was a very strong woman, and she had
Mm.
her practical reasons, because she and her husband had
Mm.
been attacked in their home with there was also this elderly, very also vulnerable to live alone.
Right, right,
And if you
right.
remember, like some 10 years back, a lot of attacks started
Yes.
happening on the elderly.
Yeah.
So she and her husband were actually attacked.
Mm.
And then anyway, a few years later, she lost her husband, and then she had to take this decision, which is
Mm.
very old, to like
Mm.
leave and go. So this
Mm.
whole thing, and she says, I know I have to do this. And she's packing up the house while we are shooting.
Mm.
Which is like, I know I have to do this, but still, so she
Mm.
was packing up everything. And then there were others. other these very fancy old age homes that I was shooting with, and some elderly with all the money in the world, but they had to go and shift into old age homes. And on the other side of the spectrum were the middle class and lower middle class people whose stories also I was following. And see, this kind of thing of children leaving the parents and going, it happens. There's no rule that only somebody who's very poor will do that or a middle class person will do that. It happens. But sometimes it's also very genuine reasons. Like nobody's making this, nobody's chosen to do this. Let's say it's just happened that the children are abroad now, they can't come back, and now the parents cannot shift there or will not shift there. So what? And longevity, while it's a good thing, but it's leaving you very, 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 very lonely. So that, and so and I do remember the concept of mental health and all was not even there. Nobody was even talking about it. But I do remember thinking, who's talking to them? That sense of loneliness or abandonment, which comes. I think that's something which stayed with me a lot.
For sure. I think the older population probably need a sense of community, is what I've understood when I've worked with them, when I've seen them around personally, professionally. They hardly show up in therapy, which is unfortunate.
Because it's not a thing for the generation, but I think it would be great.
Community is really nice. If they can stay in a place where they know somebody, they go have tea, go for a walk, that really helps maintain their mental
I
health.
think something we need to start planning very, very early on is to have some sense of purpose, because once that goes
away,
and see, these old age homes are great and I'm sure they're safe and there is a community, but it's what we were talking in the beginning. If it's not a choice you've done, then you kind of feel it's happening to you, and then there is no control again. So so I kind of feel, if I don't know if I mean I think everybody should take therapy first of all. But I know that there is a thing against in the elderly that not to, and they'll they look down upon it. But I think it would be great if people like you make inroads into that area.
Yeah. But does that just connecting two dots maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say this experience and then your own, for example, your boy is now probably going to college, one already in college, one going to college soon. Do you ever feel like, oh, I'm going to have an empty nest?
Oh, yes. And I didn't think I would ever feel that. Because I thought my life is so full and there is so much happening. And honestly, when my last year is when my elder one went. And I don't know why, I was just not prepared for it. But perhaps I thought that my children, I was very clear, my children won't go abroad to study. I want them to study in India. And so obviously there had been conversations between me and the children, and they were also of the opinion that they would like to do their graduation in India. So I was kind of thinking he'll be around and he'll be studying here. But when the admission process and all started, and his college of choice was Jodhpur, and I think it was something that I had to contend with. And while I had one left, but I think that year, whole of last year, is kind of in a way prepared me for the other one. And yes, I've thought of the empty nest thing, but because I think I've kind of thought of it and become conscious of it and decided that what I want to do. I hope I can cope with it better, let's just say. But there is something I must say. There are some, most things or everything. We want that there should be an easy way out of it, but sometimes the only way through, the only way to the other side is through it.
For sure.
So I can say that like it doesn't matter, but it does. So that's how everyone might not like hearing it, because you want someone to say, no, it's okay, you can do this and you can do this. No, but I kind of feel that for so many things that the only way is kind of through it. So you have to go through that process. So for me, like for example, I think I might consider myself lucky that my child is studying in India. So I very consciously thought that, okay, I need to see him like every 2 months or whatever. So how are we going to make that possible? So I was like, okay, I have decided that every 2 months I need to, travel and see him and those things. So that's something I decided. And, so uh, that was my coping way of doing it. And of course, then let me say the good thing also, it does become better. But yes, there is a sense which comes, initially.
Right. I think that's the thing. People tend to tap on their way of like coping could be denial, repression, suppression. कि नहीं, it's okay. ऐसा तो होना ही है. Like, kind of underplaying it and not feeling their feelings. So what comes to me when I was hearing you talk was that, okay, you processed it.
But I have to admit, I also went into denial for some time. And I think these are stages perhaps that you're saying. And I also, I do think that there was a certain amount of denial, and I was like, so I went through that process, then acceptance, and then I was like, I am feeling terrible. But it's, I think it's important for you to know it yourself. It's not that anyone else is going to come and give you validation, or you need that also all the time. So I had to accept it first, that yes, I'm this is different, and I'm feeling different. But now what? Is this going to be my life? Like feeling like that? So that now what decision I had to take?
Right. Like in therapy, we say, if you can name it, you can heal it.
Really?
Yeah. So like
that's lovely.
So kind of saying that, I am upset.
Yeah.
Like putting a label on it and feeling your feelings. Like people say, oh, feel your feelings or process your grief. How does one do that? You have to sit with it. You have to say, oh, hi, welcome. Okay, and acknowledge it.
And that's the most scary.
That's very difficult. I know it is easier said than done, of course, but that, like you said, you have to go through it. There's no way around it.
But that's where I think that where therapy, I feel I'm reaching out. See, we think or we want, and it's great to have friends to talk to, but the solution is not going to come through a friend or through family, because they I think will always tell you from their experience. Anybody who gives you any advice will always tell you from the limited experience which they have. And which is where I think that speaking to an expert or a therapist kind of puts it in a perspective, and gives you that view which you probably need to. And so feeling the feeling, I really like this line that you said, that if you can name it, you can heal it, right? So but that there is a sense of loneliness when you're doing that. And
it is, obviously it's difficult. That's why people avoid it. But there's no way around it. But in therapy also, like sometimes people come and say, oh, give me solutions. And we don't do that. We want you to come up with the solutions, so we ask the questions, we guide you through it. And I think what that does is it creates a sense of self, a very strong sense of self. What do I want? You reflect, you go inwards, and you think about, not a lot of people, when I ask them, even professionally or personally, when I say, oh, who are you? And they're like, oh, I'm someone who's studying in college, I'm someone who likes to hang out. Okay, and I don't know. So therapy kind of helps you maybe reflect and come up with those answers, and that takes you to the decision. What do I actually want? And that should be aligned.
I also feel, what I feel therapy does is kind of gives you a sense of control, because you are now doing something to solve your problem. So the very fact that you're just showing up at a therapist means you're doing something. And like what I was telling you about having a sense of people watching your episode will think I'm completely obsessively controlling person, but I just kind of feel that you're an active participant. Once you start going for therapy, instead of like main bichara and I'm the victim and this person did that to me, like your child going out to study is a good thing. It's not like something really sad has happened to you. That's the a part of life. And of course you want the child to grow, and you want the child to go in a good place. So it's a good thing happening. Now, how do you process it is,
Yeah, no, I love this active participant bit that
mm,
you said. Of course, definitely.
yeah,
We have to be active participants in our own stories.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
For sure. And
yeah,
that brings me back to, let's say, you being a filmmaker, when you were hearing stories. I feel like storytelling can also be very healing in a way, especially if that story is told with dignity, not only
yeah.
for the viewer who's
Hmm.
watching or observing that story,
Hmm.
but also for whose story is being told.
Yeah,
I think it can have
yeah,
magical healing
yeah,
powers.
yeah. But you have to be very, um, you have to do it with a lot of empathy, because
Absolutely.
as a filmmaker, see, when you're um, going into a person's life, actually think about it. They open up their homes, their lives to you, and um, I think filmmakers, especially documentary filmmakers, if you're doing
Hmm.
non-fiction and you're getting into people's life, you have to be very empathetic and very sensitive.
Hmm.
At sometimes there might be something, you know, something very revealing that the person has said, and it would be great as a clickbait thing.
Hmm.
But would you use it?
Hmm.
When that person has been so vulnerable, and so I think empathy is a key word which I think filmmakers should have when they're telling anybody else's
Yeah.
story, and also it becomes kind of quite heavy to carry.
So,
Yeah, it becomes quite heavy when you're
hmm.
hearing these. I remember the help it stories when I was
Hmm.
working with the elderly.
Hmm.
It was quite a heavy thing
It's
to,
heavy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, to carry.
That's what I don't think people understand, the emotional
Hmm.
labor
Hmm.
that goes into professions like these, let's say
Yeah,
filmmaking or
yeah.
even therapy or
I was
wherever,
going to
even
ask
a film.
you,
Yeah,
what do you do to cut off?
we'll get
Like,
to that.
yeah.
Talking about you, but also being, let's say, a public servant, or
Hmm.
let's say you were,
Hmm.
you are a politician, you
Hmm.
were
Hmm.
elected last year,
And
or
I finished my term last
you
year. Yeah,
finished your term last year. So that involves caring for others,
yeah,
going
yeah,
out of your home and listening to people's
yeah.
concerns and
Hmm.
trying to help them, and that
Hmm.
can be extremely exhausting. There's a lot of
It is
emotional labor.
honestly, yeah. It is. Being a public servant and you're actually working. It's physically, emotionally very exhausting. Like I used to, and I when I was in the process, I
Hmm.
kind of felt, who do I talk about this to? Because nobody's understanding.
Hmm.
And because it's like nobody's coming to me with a solution, right? As a
Hmm.
public servant, everybody is looking at me for the
Hmm.
solution. They
Hmm.
want me to give them answers, so I'm
Yeah.
constantly problem solving. So it
Hmm.
used to take a,
Hmm.
I think I started meditating and all at
At that time.
yeah, into my first term or something, because I was like, I was constantly overwhelmed.
Hmm.
And you're out literally physically in the streets, it's whether it's hot, it's cold, or what, it's raining, or there's water drainage all in the city, you're in the midst of it all,
Hmm.
like all through COVID. I don't think I sat a day at
Hmm.
home. But what I started doing, and that's, I'm coming back to the children part, is
Hmm.
that and because my work became so demanding, as well, because I was a professional as a filmmaker, and then I got into politics, so that part of it was there.
Hmm.
So I would make it a point to take my children on holidays,
Hmm.
with me into the constituency.
Hmm.
And so all of Saturday, Sunday, of course, because there
Right.
were no Sundays off for me. And I was like, this is the only. So I would tell them, okay, come with me for like 3, 4, 5 hours, and then it'll
Hmm.
be, just us after
Yeah.
that. So it was, I think, because I was doing that, and they could also see what I'm
Hmm.
going through,
Hmm.
it kind of then helped me. Because earlier, or it used, I mean, it is a very exhausting thing. And
Hmm.
like I said, so yeah, meditating is something I started.
Hmm.
I learned something, a technique called cord cutting, also at that point of time.
Yeah.
And I when somebody, I remember a friend of mine, and she also works in the alternate. She works in the alternate healing space. So when she told me about it, and she doesn't live here, she lives in Bombay. And when she told me, I found it so funny. I was like, "What are you saying? Imagine a cord and cut it." But like genuinely, I started doing that. I would sit in meditation, and I would be like doing this. I think it does help. Like I'm saying, you have to have some ritual or mechanism to know how to cope with it. Otherwise, it's a spiral. Otherwise, life can be like a complete spiral.
For sure. Coping and healing. You cope and then you move towards
Yeah,
healing.
yeah.
So that's very important, and I like that you took your kids to
Yeah.
work, and that actually also would build empathy in them to see what mom is actually doing and how difficult that job could be. And sometimes I, like, coming back to your question, sometimes I wish I could just make someone sit in a therapy session just to witness, but that's impossible.
Yeah. You can't do that.
I can't
do that. No, but I mean, I understand. So I was asking you, how do you cope? Because nobody's coming and giving you good news. You are dealing with problems constantly. So there has to be some way that, a coping mechanism that.
I go to therapy myself. I have a therapist, so I see her once in a while, which is great. It helps me kind of feel grounded. And because work is confidential, so it's difficult to share those stories with anybody else, but you can share that with the therapist because she also will keep that confidential for you.
Yeah.
So without obviously revealing names, but so then that cycle gets created, and my therapist goes to her therapist.
Oh wow!
So it's a nice loop because we can't talk about what we heard in therapy to anybody else, and that can be very isolating. And then I hang out with my therapist friends. So there's a community where there's a lot of understanding and mutual respect, that they get it basically. So you need someone to see your struggle. I think that's what I'm getting at. That is really, that in itself can just, and that's what happens in therapy as well, actually. Because your therapist is sitting with you and they can see your struggle.
That's so lovely what you said. I think we all need to be seen, actually.
Exactly.
And when you said it, I'm just realizing that what a therapy can do is give you the safe space to be seen. So that need is taken care. I think that's a human need, to be seen. I don't know so much validation, but at least to be seen and acknowledged. And I also think that it might help to take pressure off relationships. Because one is expecting that I'm doing this, I'm not getting credit for it, or I'm doing so much, but I mean, it's your thing. And like I said, so I'm very big on choices. But this thing, like, I just realized that what you're saying, that this thing of being seen and understood, because you might have friends, but everybody's story might be very different. So I think a therapist gives you that safe space.
Yeah, for sure. You want to be seen, you want to be heard. Yes. I think these two things to start with, and that's what therapy does. And a lot of times I see on Instagram also reels, memes, posts that I don't go to therapy because I have my best friend. I think I think, like you said, to take off the pressure, not always having best friends is great. I have a few myself, and that's very important. But a support system is important, but therapy, I think, is different.
I think so. I think, because friends shouldn't be the space, I feel, where you're only going and crying. Like, I mean, life is short. So I think take the pressure off relationships, keep the problems and the issues which need to be resolved for therapy. And then you can, I mean, not just friendship, even your your family, your spouse, your children, like then I think it just eases the pressure of them, and then you can just perhaps enjoy these relationships better.
I'm happy to know that you're open, because parents sometimes, and again coming back to parenting, because you understand the benefits of therapy, you understand the concept of it. If your kids ever need to go for it, I think you will be like, okay, yeah, sure, go to therapy.
Sometimes, I encourage my children to go for therapy,
because sometimes parents call me and they're like, have we done something wrong? Our child needs therapy. Have we failed as parents? And I understand where that comes from, that sense of guilt, or am I not supporting them enough? And it comes from a place of concern. But the fact that you're saying this, whoever hears it, I feel that
No,
they
no,
would
like,
resonate
because
and learn.
I feel that I was very open.
Hmm.
I'm open to a lot of experiences,
Hmm.
whatever helps me.
Hmm.
So when I opened myself to the idea of therapy, I am also very okay to talk about it.
Hmm.
And because I spoke about it, I spoke to I would tell my children, okay, now I'm busy, I won't take a call for an hour and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So I want it to be mainstreamed in my
Hmm.
in my house.
Hmm.
So same way, like I tell my children also, just go and speak to a therapist.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because then whatever you're dealing with, and I'm sure even I mean, I'm not a super mom in that sense that I would also understand everything that they are going through.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've made it open, but now it's their choice whether they choose to go or not to go. But
Hmm.
I'm I mean, I keep telling them that,
That's lovely.
yeah, go. And yeah, I think both my boys have been.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. That's lovely. Right. If you had to make a movie
Hmm.
on mental health, can you visualize it, or can you tell me what would you maybe include in it? It's a creative question.
I would, if I make a movie on mental health, I would, uh, I would definitely have, I don't know how, like, I'm thinking Bollywood, right?
Anything up to
Yeah,
you.
yeah, okay,
Maybe
I'm
a
thinking of fiction.
documentary or Bollywood or commercial. I don't know.
If I were to make a Bollywood film, I think it would be interesting to do something on able women.
Mm.
I would love to see strong, I mean, love to show strong women characters
Mm-hmm.
in a film. And, like I said, women who've made their own decisions, women who are ready to face the consequences
Mm.
of their decisions, and women who lead multifaceted lives with whether single or whether married or with children,
Mm.
and just live and be
Yeah.
alive and show so many different ways of being, instead of being in these stereotypes that we put
Mm-hmm.
people. I love things which are like out of the box, or like a
Yeah.
little different, and I feel that we need to make space for the different.
That
Yeah, because we're
absolutely.
all trying. I used to have a favorite line line when my children were in early school, and I was like the Jonases, because I
Mm.
just kind of feel like every parent is copying another person, and you all
Mm.
want to be the same, and you want to dress the same, and you want to go to the same place, and you
Mm.
want to carry the same bag, and you
Mm.
want to go to the same holiday destinations, and there's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there is nothing like, so I kind of feel that there should be space for
But different.
for different, and I find women's stories very interesting.
Mm.
So yeah, I would
That'd be nice. I would
yeah,
love to watch that
yeah,
movie.
I would love to have like all these
Yeah.
women breaking the stereotypes, but also within the system,
Mm.
speaking up and having minds of their own, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to do a film like that.
Lovely. That'd be great. But when it comes to, let's say, politics, and my brain is jumping back to
Hmm.
that, you think there's, I don't know if politics and mental health, I've never heard.
It should be,
They
na?
are not associated together so much, and they should be, because there's so much there.
Yes,
Stress and image and
I think,
insecurity, so
yes,
much.
I think it should be mandatory for all politicians to take therapy, because, like you said, that you politicians are public figures, first of
Yes.
all, and they're dealing with constituencies, which means they're dealing with people, and they always have to be in a position where they have to do something for people.
Hmm.
And we never look at it like that, but I'm sure it takes it does take a toll. Having been there, I can say that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and at the same time, when you are a public person, then you're not really letting your hair down
Hmm.
in public. So when you're maintaining an image, that itself is stressful. When you're keeping your back
Stressful, yeah.
straight, for example, you need to let go somewhere. So yeah, I think it should be mandatory.
Hmm.
Like the saying is, you can only pour from a cup which is full. And I think that goes for everybody, whether as whether for a mother or politician, and or just about anybody. You can only pour when you yourself are in a place. Um, and I don't know if I'm going off track, but like one word which I found very difficult to accept earlier in my life, and was being selfish. And to do something for yourself is maybe our generation was brought up like that, or we were taught, or that was how it was, that if you do something for yourself, you're selfish.
Right.
And but if there is a very interesting story which I think my mother told this to me, but I don't think she realized the relevance of what she's saying. So she's like, when my child was small, so when my son was small, she would say that, eat yourself and then feed him. Okay, and I would be like, no, I have to feed him, and she'd be like, no, eat yourself and then sit and feed him aram se. And I actually started doing that, and then I realized it's such a better way of doing it, because when your glucose is spiraling and the child's glucose is spiraling, then you're also angst, and the child is troubling you to eat. So you shift your time and you eat your meal, and then you sit down aram se and feed the child, and the dynamic completely changes.
That's nice.
And it's just such a small example of that. Only when you yourself are. So I would do that. I would be very, and people would not get it. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm eating. And then feed your children first. Everybody says, no, feed your children first. Like that's 7:30 time. So I will eat at 7. If my children's time is 7:30, then I would like, I'm eating at 7. So like I'm going to eat and then sit down and feed them. Yeah.
That's very powerful. It's such a small act, but it can.
It really is. It just physically grounds you,
right?
Because then you're not angst. See, when you're not eaten, then yourself, your body is in this
patience. And
you have so much patience. So then it's like, I'm done. Now I'm all yours.
Yeah.
And so that it's just a small example. It's like that's
even in the plane, like they say, put your mask
first. Yeah.
And then you
but you can't relate these examples. You kind of feel like, oh, but you're being selfish. Am I being selfish? And I feel, like, please be selfish. Be selfish, so that be with yourself, and then only you're going to be able to offer anybody anything. Yeah,
for sure. Thank you for reminding me, and I keep saying this to so many people, that mental health is not only personal, but it's political, it's relational, it's systemic. So there are, mental health is everywhere.
Yeah. And I'm so glad, like, that it's now coming in the open. People, I mean, like, you doing the podcast, like, I think it's a great idea. Like, just put it out there. Let more people speak about it. So it's not seen like some stigma.
Yeah.
It should be as important as your physical health. And if you're not feeling great for whatever reason, you're not going to do great. Like, so.
For sure. Because it's not just limited to mental health issues like depression, anxiety, etc. It's just every day is a struggle sometimes with work, because nobody's life is easy.
Nobody's life is easy.
Has different difficulties.
So
we sometimes need that external support. Like we're going to the gym.
I agree.
To be fit.
I think, I agree. That's a way to look at it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.